respected guest of honor, esteemed speakers and artists, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Languages do not survive only because people love them. They survive because someone takes responsibility for them, to study them, defend them, organize them, and sometimes even fight for them quietly. Today, I stand before you to speak about one such quiet guardian of the Assamese language and literature, Pandit Hemchandra Goswami. Let me begin with an image. Imagine a young student in Calcutta, far away from Assam. He is not wealthy, he is not famous, but he spends his days writing letters, recording minutes, editing essays, correcting proofs, collecting funds, all for a language that many around him dismiss as a dialect. That young man was Hemchandra Goswami. And years later, when a devastating earthquake buried the only handwritten manuscript of Assam's first dictionary under mud and rubble, it was the same man who patiently sat down to restore it, page by page, letter by letter, so that the language would not lose its backbone. That was his idea of service. Pandit Hemchandra Goswami was not merely a writer or a scholar. He was many things at once: a historian, a linguist, a literary organizer, a teacher, a guardian of manuscripts, and above all, a protector of Assamese identity. He lived at a time when Assamese itself was under threat, threatened by neglect, by colonial policy, and by the persistent claim that it was merely a corrupt form of Bengali. On this solemn occasion commemorating his birth anniversary, I offer my respectful tribute to a life devoted to language, culture, and truth. I also place on record my gratitude to the Pandit Hemchandra Goswami Foundation for organizing this program and carrying forward his legacy. And I especially acknowledge Dr. Nava Goswami for ensuring that these contributions continue to inspire new generations. Through this collective remembrance, we reaffirm that Goswami is not merely a scholar of the past, but a guiding presence for the future. One of his earliest and most significant contributions came through the Assamese Bhasha Unnoti Hathini Sabha, reorganized in Calcutta in 1888. While still a student, Goswami shouldered the burden of its daily functioning. He sent meeting notices, recorded minutes, summarized speeches, managed debates, collected fees, and encouraged young writers. It was quiet, unpaid labor. But without it, the Assamese literary movement would not have survived. At the Sabha's second annual session, Goswami took a historic step. For the first time in Assamese, he presented a continuous and systematic outline of the history of the Assamese language. When this essay later appeared in Junaki, it stirred admiration, resistance, and awakening. With calm reasoning and solid evidence, he asserted that Assamese was a distinct language with its own evolution. This was not mere scholarship. It was an act of intellectual defense. Then came Junaki itself, born in 1889, the lamp of modern Assamese literature. While Chandra Kumar Agarwala was its publisher, Goswami was its backbone. He edited articles, raised funds, enforced discipline, and even introduced a rule that every member must submit an article or pay a fine. That seriousness kept Junaki alive and allowed modern Assamese prose, poetry, and criticism to mature. Perhaps the clearest measure of Goswami's devotion is the story of Hemkuch. When Hemchandra Borua passed away without seeing his dictionary published, Goswami sensed the danger that this priceless work might be lost forever. Legal disputes, orthographic disagreements, bureaucratic hesitation, and then the earthquake of 1897. Handbook's manuscript and proof pages were buried under the earth. Many pages were torn, letters smudged and faded. Yet, Goswami persisted. He had to endure untold hardship as the swimming against the current of a raging river. He collated torn pages, corrected smudged letters, and painstakingly recopied the damaged sections. Owing to this untiring labor and perseverance, when Handbook was finally published in 1900 by the government, it brought order and clarity to Assamese spelling and usage. Goswami modestly wrote in his preface to Handbook, "Had it not been for God's special grace upon the Assamese language, it would have been difficult for Handbook to survive the repeated onslaughts of disaster and escape the devouring jaws of time. For having been able to lend a little hand in saving such a national treasure, I do not consider myself less fortunate." History makes it clear that without him, Handbook might never have survived. Equally transformative was his role in securing Assamese a place in higher education. Until 1907, Assamese had no place in the BA curriculum of the University of Calcutta. When the government sought a serious monograph on the language, scholars quietly turned to Goswami. His response laid the foundation for Assamese to enter the BA and later the MA curriculum. This journey culminated in Assamese Sahityor Saneki, which traced nearly 15 centuries of Assamese language and literature. His scholarship crossed borders. In 1927, Professor H. von Glassenhut of Berlin University praised Assamese Sahityor Saneki. Assamese had entered the global academic conversation. Goswami consistently used Katha Gita and similar texts to demonstrate that Assamese was not a recent or derivative language, but one with deep historical roots. His larger scholarly mission was to establish the antiquity of Assamese through comparative analysis and authoritative evidence. After going through Katha Gita that Goswami presented to him, Rabindranath Tagore wrote that one could indeed be proud of an author who was able to handle prose in such a remarkably lucid style, more than a century before Bengal had any prose book of its own. Goswami's influence was not limited to books and classrooms. In 1924, when Mahatma Gandhi visited Guwahati, Goswami sought a personal meeting to address his remarks that had hurt Assamese self-respect. He welcomed Gandhi with a gamusa and calmly explained the antiquity and depth of Assamese language and culture. The following day, Gandhi publicly corrected himself, acknowledging the cultural and intellectual dignity of the Assamese people. Goswami's commitment to dignity extended beyond language to social ethics as well. During India's freedom movement, when his wife Bama Sundari Devi donated her gold jewelry in support of the struggle, the colonial authorities attempted to hold Goswami responsible. At the time, he was serving as a government officer. He responded with clarity and restraint, asserting that a woman possessed full authority over her personal property, and that neither husband nor state could claim control over such decisions. This stand quietly challenged prevailing social assumptions and affirmed women's dignity and independent moral standing. Goswami also recognized the cultural strength of the people. At a time when many intellectuals dismissed Rongali Bihu as rustic, he encouraged Bihu songs, composed several himself, and brought the festival into the cultural mainstream. He understood that living language draws strength not only from text, but from music, celebration, and collective joy. What makes all this remarkable is that Goswami began this struggle as a student, continued it as a scholar, and never abandoned it as a government officer. He proved that public service and cultural conscience need not be opposites. Hemchandra Goswami never sought applause. He worked silently when manuscripts were lost, when recognition was delayed, when resources were scarce. If Junaki lit the lamp of modern Assamese literature, Assamese Sahityor Saleki placed Assamese confidently on the academic stage of the world. He did not write only for his time. He wrote for generations yet to come. As long as Assamese is read, studied, and spoken with pride, Pandit Hemchandra Goswami will remain present in every page, every word, every act of linguistic dignity. He did not merely save Assamese literature. He ensured that it could never be erased. Thank you. Joy I Ahom.
যিকোনো খবৰৰ বাবে যোগাযোগ কৰক আমাৰ এই নম্বৰত 9181 307 221